Good Monday morning to all of you. It is July 31st, 2023. It's episode 32 of DMS 3000 News Live, and I am your gracious host and moderator for this 2-hour program, Jason DeCanio. Hope you had a fantastic weekend as we enter right into the very last week of July. Today is the very last day of July, and August is upon us as of tomorrow. And I might, toward the end of this program, have some fantastic news to share with you about tomorrow's program, but I don't want to kind of give it away if we have to go to some backup plan for that. So keep your hopes up and stay positive with me for the 2-hour show. We're going to give you a great show as always, but we might even have a fantastic show tomorrow where we might have a live interview going on for an entire 2 hours with our special guest who I hope will be with us tomorrow. If she decides to join us, great. If not, then we also have backup plans for the program as well. So we always are one step ahead of the situation just in case we have to go to backup for that reason. So anyways, today on the program for this episode 32 or this 32nd episode of the David 3000 News Live program. Today we're looking at the 22nd anniversary of the closing of Napster. Yeah, you probably have heard of Napster back in 2003 when we all had our iPod shuffles and our nanos and iPods, and we were just streaming music and putting it on recording devices, and Napster was like the biggest thing to grace us with its presence. And unfortunately, today was the day that they shut down due to a lot of lawsuits and copyright situations. But we'll look at the official closing. We'll look at the history of Napster and give you all of that and how it really started to become the first of many, many more streaming sites later on. Okay, so just because of the fact that they shut down that one company did not mean that the streaming era was going to be gone. Oh, no. We can thank Napster for starting what has now become a regular thing in our lives, which is streaming music and television programs and all goodies. All right. And also, too, we have the 8th anniversary of the death of Rowdy Piper. Yes, you wrestling fans remember Rowdy Piper, Hot Rod. Oh, what a great man and great wrestler, great actor. He died over 8 years ago in 2015. We're going to look at his illustrious legacy and give you all of the great scoops of what he did to turn the wrestling industry around and how he was a very good benefactor to that sport. Also, we have a book on top today, The Psychology of Stupidity by Jean-Francis Marmion. We'll also give you a complete commentary on the book as well. The Psychology of Stupidity. I don't know how in the world we come up with these books and they come up with these titles, but we will look at that book later on in the program and give you all of the commentaries about that book later on. Plus, we also have News of the Weird. What day is today? The editorial coming up towards the last 15 minutes of the program, which will give you a little bit of insight of what's going on tomorrow. Plus the headline, sports, and of course a repeat of what day is today later on. All of this and more on this edition of DMS 3000 News Live, episode 32. Well, let's go ahead and give you the headlines for today, the 31st of July, 2023. The death toll in Pakistan suicide bombing rises as families hold funerals. No one immediately claimed responsibility for Sunday's bombing, which killed dozens and wounded nearly 200 people. An SUV strikes 6 migrant workers in Walmart parking lot in North Carolina. Police are still working to identify the vehicle and driver in the Sunday afternoon incident. A federal judge has dismissed Trump's defamation case against CNN over the big lie. The former president claimed that references in news articles or by the network's hosts to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election as the big lie was tantamount to comparing him to Adolf Hitler. A New Hampshire nurse and her child have been kidnapped in Haiti. The humanitarian group El Roy Haiti said Alix Dorsainville and her child were taken from the organization's campus near Port-au-Prince. So hopefully they can recuperate the mother and her child and take them to much safer grounds. A bombing at a political rally in Pakistan has killed at least 44 and wounded some 200. The attack tore through a rally by supporters of a hardline cleric and political leader in the country's northwestern Bajor district. Nearly 200 others were wounded in the blast. Supporters of Niger's coup march, waving Russian flags and denouncing France. Thousands of supporters of the junta that took over Niger in a coup this week marched through the streets of the capital, waving Russian flags, chanting Vladimir Putin's name, and denouncing France. This Ivy League researcher says spirituality is good for our mental health. A Columbia University professor says spiritual beliefs can decrease our rates of anxiety and depression. I needed to understand how she came to these conclusions. African leaders leave Russian summit without grain deal or path to peace in Ukraine. And African leaders are leaving 2 days of meetings with Vladimir Putin with little to show for their requests to resume a deal that kept grain flowing from Ukraine and to find a path to end the war. The historic heat wave that has hit the U.S. Southwest is set to cool a little. A historic heat wave that has gripped the United States Southwest throughout July, blasting residents and baking surfaces like brick, is beginning to abate with the late arrival of monsoon rains. Hopefully, they'll be able to cool down and get back to normal temperatures as the summer winds down and we get into the fall season, which hopefully is in a couple of months. In broiling cities like New Orleans, the health system faces off against heat stroke. And like other places, New Orleans has seen record numbers of people falling ill with heat-related conditions. First responders and hospitals race to respond with ice, fluids, and air conditioning. And a worm that survived 46,000 years in permafrost wow scientists. Yes, a nematode found deep in frozen sediment has proven its ability to survive extreme environments long term. Scientists studying the species say their work could inform the protection of other animals. If they kept this going, boy, oh boy, we'd be able to freeze humans and be able to live longer beyond well into our hundreds and 200s. And finally, as living memories of the Korean War fade, its consequences become clear. As most Korean War vets are well into their 90s, they still struggle with America's perceptions of what has been called the Forgotten War. And those are the headlines for today, July 31st, 2023. And you can, of course, check out all the headlines and everything else at nprnews.com and get your headlines and information from there. That's where we get our information from. They're very accurate, and they tell the story, giving you a little bit of a glimpse. One story I want to touch base on is the Yellow Trucking Company meltdown explained. Yes, this is by Emma Bowen. It was updated yesterday, July 30th, 2023. It's the end of the road for one of the nation's largest freight carriers. Yellow, a trucking company that just 3 years ago took a $700 million federal pandemic loan, is shutting down, according to the Teamsters Union, which represents the company's 22,000 unionized workers. The company is expected to file for bankruptcy as soon as Monday, according to industry experts, following a recent exodus of customers amid union strife and on top of years of financial troubles. With 30,000 jobs at stake, it's poised to be the largest trucking bankruptcy in the history of the U.S., experts said. And the company, formerly known as YRC Worldwide, is the third largest less-than-truckload carrier by revenue behind FedEx and Old Dominion. LTL companies move pallet-sized shipments smaller than a container, but bigger than a parcel. Yellow has not publicly announced any plans for bankruptcy or a potential shutdown. And here's what we know. The employees were told to prepare for a company shutdown. The strike threat delivered the final blow to cash poor Yellow. The company has been at risk of bankruptcy for years, and A world without yellow. Well, yeah, that could mean the end of Nashville-based company, could mean the loss of 30,000 jobs if they don't get this right before it's all said and done. So hopefully we wish the best of luck to all those people out there who work for the Yellow Trucking Company, and hope and pray that you guys can get your jobs back, get back on the road, and help us to become a great American country once again. All right, it's time for sports, and there was a lot of sports going on, as you know, on Sunday Night Baseball. The Baltimore Orioles, oh my God. I was watching the game last night, and I tell you, these guys just broke off on a 7-run first inning domination of the Yankees. You know, it goes to show you that the Baltimore Orioles are for real, folks. These guys are not to be taken too lightly. What was once the cellar dwellers of the American League East now have become the AL East top division leader by 1.5 games. So still, they're keeping pace with the Tampa Bay Rays. However, you know, they say good things can come to those who try. And right now, the Baltimore Orioles are showing exactly what they are made of. But let's look at some of the stuff that's going on in the MLB right now. We've got Anthony Castrovince. He's going to share us 13 bold predictions that as the trade deadline prevails. That's coming up today is the trade deadline. So every trade deadline prediction you are about to read is accurate. How do I know? Because I'm the guy who told you 1 month ago that the Angels would acquire Lucas Giolito, and my track record of baseball predictions, an incredible 0.000062% success rate, speaks for itself. The statement is not accurate. Tracking every trade deadline deal. Thanks to a bevy of standing surprises, this has already been a much more interesting deadline than people in the industry expected going into the year, unless you entered the year certain that the Mets would be selling to the Marlins. So what do the final hours leading up to Tuesday's 6 p.m. Eastern time trade deadline have in store for us? Read on to find out. Note, I'm not going heavy here on prospect returns because I know from past experience that just leads to a bunch of people yelling at me that the returns are too light or too much, and all of us will be wrong about it anyways. So, here's some of his predictions. Justin Verlander to the Dodgers. Well, Los Angeles has awoken from its external acquisition slumber. Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, and Ahmed Rosario are all recent additions to a Dodgers team that was quiet last winter and once again proved to be elite anyway. The Dodgers are already projected to be over the luxury tax threshold, so they might as well make a splash that solidifies their potential to overtake the Braves as the NL's top team. The Dodgers had pursued Verlander over the winter, given their pitching injury hits and the Mets' messiness. Perhaps both parties wish things had gone differently. Verlander's former Astros club is aggressively in pursuit, but the Dodgers have more to offer the Mets, who will become the first team ever to trade multiple 3-time Cy Young winners in the same season and are not expected to celebrate this fact on a Citi Field plaque. The Orioles and Mariners will make the most interesting trade of the deadline. The elite O's and middling M's are properly paired at this deadline because Seattle has young, controllable starters that Baltimore needs, and Baltimore has the young, controllable bats that Seattle craves. So if the Mariners were to ship Logan Gilbert to the Orioles for infielder Jordan Westburg and outfielder Heston Kjerstad and lefty DL Hall, both clubs would be addressing their needs in a dynamic way, and the rest of us would have long-term fodder for deal dissection. Everybody wins. The White Sox will keep Dylan Cease, Tim Anderson, etc. Well, the Southsiders have been one of baseball's absolute biggest disappointments the past 2 years, unable to make hay with what many of us believe to be an exciting core. Now, the fire sale has begun, but in a weak division, the Sox won't go fully down the rebuild route by dealing their controllable stars, even though there is a very a very strong argument to do so. The Cubs will keep Marcus Stroman and Cody Bellinger. Yeah, the Windy City is not going to cooperate with our demand for trade buzz. This has already been speculated by MLB Network insider John Hyman, and it makes sense at this stage. A playoff run may arguably not mean as much to the 2016 World Series champs as, say, the Orioles, Marlins, Reds, etc., but the Cubs have played too well in July to ignore and franchise-altering prospect hauls for rentals. Stroman has a player option and Bellinger a mutual option for 2024. They have become rare. Bellinger especially is an extension candidate on the north side. A big Royals-Reds swap. Yes, the Royals send Brady Singer and Scott Barlow to the Reds in a deal involving Jonathan India and prospects. Singer's development has been disappointing, but he looks resilient of late. 23-3 strikeout to walk ratio in 19 innings and is under control through 2026. Barlow has had a difficult walk-prone year, but he's been a game-changing reliever in the past and is under control through 2024. India would be an important piece of moving forward for the Royals team in need of competent major leaguers. We're going to look at more predictions on tomorrow's show, possibly, with Eduardo Rodriguez to the Astros, Jack Flaherty to the D-backs and the Rays. Well, it just keeps going on and on. We'll look at more of those predictions on tomorrow's episode 33 of DMS 3000 News Live. But we got to make some more, speaking of predictions, we got to give you the scores of all the good stuff here. The scores and the standings, that's the important thing you want to know about. As of yesterday, the scores were like this. The Angels, well, they upset the Blue Jays, keeping the Blue Jays in a rout with the Rays and the Orioles. The Blue Jays at 59-47 fall to the Angels 3-2, putting the LA Angels in a little bit of a predicament in their division, getting them closer, hopefully, to the Houston, Texas Rangers matchup that they're trying to get to and maybe win the division, possibly. The Pirates, they upset the Phillies 6-4, putting the Phillies in a predicament 10 games back now of the Atlanta Braves with that loss. The Pirates, well, they got nothing to really play for at 47-58. They're just kind of like playing spoiler right now, but they're playing good. They're winning. They're 9 games under 500. But, once we get to the standings, we'll kind of clear up everything there. The Braves, well, they just keep winning. Now 34, let's see, 36. No, couldn't be. There's a 41 games over 500. No, really? I don't think so. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. 67 minus 36 is not 41. I didn't think it was. Nah. It's 31 games. I was up by 10. Okay. Put some 31 games over 500, beat the Brewers, and keep that division in the Central a little bit more tighter. Brewers fall to the Braves 8-6. It was the Mets over the Nationals. The Mets actually finally win a series, beating the lowly Nationals, taking 3 out of 4. We thought after Saturday's loss that the Mets were really going to kind of just be going back to their winning ways. They're 5 games under 500 at 50-55. They've actually won their 50th game. It took them how many months? Verlander gets the win. He's 6-5 with a 3.15 ERA, but who knows if he's going to stay in New York. For that matter, we don't know. The Nationals sit up on the bottom of the National League East at 44-62, trying to get to the 50-game mark. We'll see what happens. Marlins, they beat the Tigers, and they go ahead of Philly for that second spot right now. They get back into they're still about 10 games out of first place, but they put the pressure on them, and they beat the Tigers 8-6. Tigers fall there. They can't get there. They're under 8 games under 500. we'll look at the standings in a little bit. The Rays, they upset the Astros. They go to 64-44, 20 games over 500, but they are 1.5 back of the Orioles, who we talk about at the end of the program because they were on Sunday Night Baseball. But the Rays beat the Astros 8-2. It was the Royals over the Twins 2-1. Royals just showing that they are not giving up the worst. They don't want to be known as the team with the worst record in baseball. They want to keep winning. They do. And they beat the Twins, upsetting the Twins 2-1. It was the Guardians shutting out the White Sox 5-0 as the Guardians are trying to fight in the Central Division of the AL Central. And my goodness, I tell you what, at 53-53, this could be their chance to try to do something. We'll see what happens. Cardinals over the Cubs, 3-0. Cardinals just showing again that, you could be on the bottom of the barrel and you're still a tough team. The NL Central really doesn't have much going right now. Either team is really not fighting for much here. But the Cardinals do come out with the win on top, showing that even though you're on the bottom, it doesn't matter. You still can win games and upset some pretty good teams going into the playoffs. The Rockies shut out the Athletics, but the Athletics do get their 30th win. Holy cow. Yep. So they are only 2 games back for the worst record, fighting with the Royals. But the Rockies, they're on the bottom of the NL West too, and they are winning. So, but still a long way to go. Yeah, tough break for the Athletics as they get there, Joey. I'm sorry about that, but you still got a lot to play for. You got 30 wins. Let's see if you can get to 40 by August 10th. I'll make that prediction. All right. Rockies take that one 2-0. It was the Giants upsetting the Reds in 11. Oh my goodness. They went to extra innings on this one, but the Giants prevailed 10 games over 500, beat the Red Sox 4-3. And despite the Red Sox at 56-49, they stay out of the cellar, putting the Yankees on the bottom of the division and still 7 games over 500. The Reds, well, they shut the Dodgers out. Can you believe it? 9-0. Again, folks, you're 9 games over 500. You're in a division with the Brewers, and that tells you a lot. You got to keep winning. The Reds are showing that they can continue to win. Beating the tough teams like the Dodgers is the way to show and gain a lot of respect. Mariners over the D-backs, and that was an upset that I couldn't believe it. 4-0. Mariners take that game yesterday, and they put on a lot of pressure on the D-backs as the D-backs go to 56-50 on the year. Still 6 games over 500, but falling back in the division as we speak. Rangers, they get upset by the Padres 5-3. They are still 14 games over 500, still probably in that division with the Houston Astros, fighting it out. Excuse me. Excuse me very much. I'm going to take a swig if you don't mind. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So we get back to the Rangers and the Padres. The Padres take that game, and they have won it 5-3 and upset the Rangers. So, but this was the game that I'm telling you, folks, if you didn't watch the Sunday night game last night, you missed a 7-run inning by a team that really is showing their true colors. What we like to call the baby birds of baseball. Yes, indeed. The Baltimore Orioles, 9-3. They cap a 7-run first inning, win the game 9-3 over the Yankees, keep the Yankees in the cellar. And the Orioles, they are on top of their division by 1.5. And speaking of the division, let's look at the standings right now as of today. Baltimore right now, 64-41 atop the AL East, with Tampa Bay 1.5 back for the division, 4 games up on the wild card. So they could still get the wild card even if they lose the division. Toronto at 59-47, 5.5 back. Boston, 56-49, 8 games back, 2.5 in the wild card. The Yankees, 55-50, 9 back in the division, but only 3.5 in the wild card. Toronto is not any games back in the wild card either. So they're competing here with Tampa Bay. Minnesota, they are on top of the AL Central by a half a game over the Cleveland Guardians at 54-53. The Cleveland Guardians 53-53 at 500, a half game back, 6 back in the wild card. Detroit 47-59. 6.5 back in the division, 12 back in the wild card. White Sox 43-64, 11 games back, 16.5 in the wild card back. Kansas City 32-75, 22 games back, 27.5 back in the wild card. In the AL West, it is now Texas at 16-46. They dominate everything right now in that division. There's no games back, and then there are no games back in the wild card. Houston, 1 game back at 59-47. LA Angels, 5 back, 4 back in the wild card. Seattle, 54-51. 5.5 back, 4.5 back in the wild card. And Oakland, 30-77, 30.5 back, 29.5 back in the wild card. It's still possible, folks, mathematically, that Oakland can still try to get close to the Texas Rangers if they can win some games and go on a streak. Now we go to the NL East. Atlanta, well, nothing else to be said, my friends. You're 31 games over 500. You pretty much have dominated the NL East, and the Miami Marlins and the Philadelphia Phillies are wondering to themselves, what did we do wrong? Well, plenty, because Miami 57-49, 11.5 back. Philadelphia 56-49, 12 games back, half back in the wild card. The Mets 50-55, 18 back in the division, only 6.5 back in the wild card. They can still make a run for the wild card, folks. They are not out of it by any means. Do not give up on them. I'm not giving up on them, but I'm just not following them right now. And Washington Nationals 44-62, 24.5 back, 13 games back in the wild card. They can still try to make a run for it. All right, in the Central, the Reds and the Brewers. Well, you can't get any closer than this, folks. Half a game separates first from second in the Central. The Reds have the 1 game or the half game, and Milwaukee's back to half game, 57-49. 58-49 for the Reds at 9 games over 500. The Cubs, 1 game over 500, 4 back of the division, 3.5 in the wild card. Pittsburgh, 47-58, 10 games back, 9.5 in the wild card. And St. Louis, 47-60, 11 games back, 10.5 back in the wild card. Look, folks, when we get to all of this and we say to ourselves, those guys in the bottom who are like 20 back, don't give up on them. Don't give up on them, because you know what? You never know. You never know. All right, and the Dodgers, well, Dodgers are just taking controlling their own destiny, pretty much, is what the key is here. 15 games over 500 at 59-45. They lead San Francisco at 58-48, 2 games back, but San Francisco is 1 game up on the wild card. They lead the wild card by 1 game. Arizona 56-50, 4 back, 1 game back in the wild card. San Diego at 52-54, 8 games back, 5 back in the wild card. And Colorado 41-64, 18.5, 15.5 in the wild card. And there you have it, folks. Baseball standings through this final day of July. There we go, friends. 8:30 is the WJDC studio time via the DMS 3000 News Live here. This is episode 32. When we come back, we'll look at news of the weird and, of course, get ready for our first event of the day, which is the 22nd anniversary of the closing of Napster. We will be right back.
Please pass the all fruit.
Pass the Polana all fruit.
Pass the Polana all fruit.
Would you please pass the jelly?
Polaner All Fruit is real fruit, sweetened only with fruit juice. You'll call it delicious, you'll call it remarkable, but please, don't dare call it jelly. Polaner All Fruit, the spreadable fruit.
Worst part about shaving for me? Razor drag. Edge? No razor drag. Extra moisturizers and lubricants? Razors glide effortlessly across my bare skin. So smooth. Just gliding. No hang-ups. It makes shaving feel so good. It makes shaving feel so right. Edge. Get some.
Jello pudding pops, Jello pudding pops, frozen pudding on a stick. You know, Jello pudding pops is a winner with all the soapbox racers I know.
It is?
Mm-hmm. And even your mechanic's getting all revved up about it because it's so rich and creamy.
Yeah!
And it always gets the green light from Mom because it's made with real pudding.
Jello brand pudding pops. All the goodness of real Jello pudding. So you know it's wholesome.
A true winner.
And it gets a green light from Mom.
Mom sure know how to make life easier. Mine was always there for me. Like another mom I know. This mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. M-O-M. The laxative that helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Would Mom be harsh? No. And Mom's even easier to take with this dosage cup. See? Mom knows just what you need. So when you run into trouble, remember, nobody treats you better than Mom.
I bet you did something today you feel pretty good about. Bet you did. So go get your Mars bar. Come on, you deserve the best. Can't you just taste that rich milk chocolate, creamy caramel, and snuggle deep inside soft nougat? Big, fresh, crunchy nuts after nuts after nuts. This is what you deserve. You deserve every big crunchy nut in a Mars bar. You did do something good today, didn't you?
Oh, man. Stop texting me, people. Huh? I'm over my limit. I get charged for each text now.
You should switch to Metro PCS. Text all you want for only $3 a month.
Oh, okay, right. And then your bill is hand-delivered by Bigfoot on a singing pony.
Sounds like make-believe, but it's not. Text all you want for $3 a month and no contract. Metro PCS.
Hello, hello, hello.
Unlimit yourself.
Hello, and welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live. I'm Jason Iganio. It's episode 32 on this final day of July 31st, 2023. And we hope that you're having a fantastic day on this Monday. I know it just started for most of you, and for me, it's been a day off from working. Got the next 2 days off, so enjoy it. And we've got a lot to cover as well on the network, because starting tomorrow and going from every Tuesday this week in August, we will have meetings that are going to take place. We're going to be unraveling the fall schedule soon for the DMS 3000 network. The David 3000 Network's fall schedule will be launched September 4th. And in about a couple of months. So all this month coming up, starting tomorrow, August 1st, and going through the 29th, every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I will be running a meeting. So if you would like to join us for that meeting on Discord, please get in touch with me or David St. Dennis, and we will definitely sign you up for one of the spots. As long as you can try to make it to one of the meetings, you will have a firsthand look at what's coming up in the fall. So with that in mind, I'll talk about that later on. And this is an editorial and give you all the information about that. Okay. Right now, we got to go to News of the Weird. Yes, it is time once again for our wonderful editors at Andrews McMeel Syndication to give us News of the Weird for the week of July 28th, 2023. And the lead story today is Suspicions Confirmed. Bam, bam, bam. Yes. Zookeepers at the Columbus Zoo in Ohio were taken aback on July 20th when Sully, he's an 8-year-old Western lowland gorilla, whom they had assumed to be male, gave birth. Yes! In other words, the gorilla couldn't figure out if it was male or female. Well, Sully has lived at the zoo since 2019, United Press International reported. It's hard to tell the sex of younger gorillas, the zoo said in a statement. They don't have prominent sex organs, and they said Sully had been healthy and did not need any procedures or medical care that would have clued them into her gender. Sully is taking good care of the baby, zookeepers said, adding that eventually they'll do a DNA test to find out which of 3 males is the father. Oh, boy. And saw that coming or not? Well, at 11:55 p.m. on July 22nd, a speeding boat with 8 people aboard left the water at the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri and crashed into a home along the bank. KMIZ-TV reported that 47-year-old Adam Ramirez was driving the boat when the accident happened. After the boat hit the home, it overturned and ejected all 8 passengers who were taken to a hospital, 6 of them in serious condition. 2 people in the home at the time were uninjured, and Ramirez was charged with boating while intoxicated. Travis Coleman with Towboat U.S. Lake of the Ozarks said crashes on the lake are common, and alcohol and darkness can play a large role. Yes. A bird rarely seen in the northern hemisphere dropped into Pebble Beach, California on July 21st. KSBW-TV reported the Nazca booby. That's right, the Nazca booby, which at this time of year is usually living and breeding in the Galapagos Islands, was delivered to the SPCA of Monterey County. Officials there said it was emaciated, cold, and injured. And Beth Brookhauser said the bird had to be kept in an incubator and fed through a tube while it recovered. It had wounds on its back that appeared to be from fishing hooks, and once the bird has healed, the SPCA hopes to reintroduce it to the wild. Hong Kong's health minister, Professor Lo Chung Mao, is urging public shaming as a remedy to unlawful tobacco use, Sky News reported. Cigarettes can harm the health of all of us, Lowe told the meeting of the Legislative Council's Health Service panel on July 14th. When members of the public see people smoking in non-smoking areas, we can stare at the smokers. Everyone on the premises can stare at the person. He believes this behavior would help create a non-smoking culture in the city. And he also said authorities would use surveillance footage to crack down on smokers flouting the rules. Barbie Mania has taken the world by storm, including in Brazil, where Burger King is selling a sandwich with a bright pink sauce that looks like chewed bubble gum and has a smoky flavor, according to Burger King. CNBC reported on July 13th that the BK Barbie combo comes with a cheeseburger, a pink vanilla-flavored milkshake, a donut sprinkled with pink frosting, and an order of Ken's potatoes, also known as fries. The combo is not expected to be offered in the United States. Oh, can't get our hands on it. Trader Joe's announced on July 21st that it is recalling 2 types of cookies that may have rocks in them, National Public Radio reported. The almond windmill cookies and dark chocolate chunk and almond cookies have been removed from the grocery chain stores and destroyed, the company said, but those who had previously bought them can return the item for a refund. Please do not eat them, they urged customers. The company didn't specify how the rocks came to be in the cookies. Yeah, we probably know. They probably had a sand fight or dirt fight. And they broke rocks and little pebbles, and then, maybe they did something crazy like that. Who knows? But don't eat the cookies, folks. Just stay away from them, get your money back, okay? In late July, a woman on a Spirit Airlines plane hit her limit, the New York Post reported. The plane has stopped. I cannot hold the pee. She shouted in a video as she pulled down her pants and squatted in a corner to relieve herself. I need to urinate. 2 hours. You close the bathroom doors, she said, telling a crew member, she said, blame yourself. The video was posted on July 20th, but it is unclear where the incident took place. And you might not have it on your calendar, But August 5th is National Mustard Day. Rather than celebrating with a hot dog or a burger smothered in the yellow condiment, the French's company wants you to try mustard Skittles. Yes, I heard about this. NBC New York reported on July 25th that Skittles is always looking to inspire moments of everyday happiness and deliver unexpected ways for fans to experience the brand, said Ro Chang, marketing director at Mars. The new flavor combines their tangy mustard flavor with our iconic chewy texture to deliver this unique summer treat. Adventurous mustard lovers can try to win a bag of the candy through an online sweepstakes. Why not just go out and buy a bag of the candy when it comes out, folks? You have to try to go and win something like that, which really doesn't have much of a high value, and let alone it's Skittles for all we know. If you're a Skittles freak, well, this is right up your alley. And I don't know anybody else. I don't particularly like Skittles myself, so it don't bother me one bit. All right. On July 22nd at Truquet, Switzerland, 100 Alphorn players gathered for the 22nd International Alphorn Festival, Yahoo News reported. You know Alphorns? Think Ricola commercials. You know, Ricola. Yeah. The competitors are judged on interpretation, musicality, accuracy, and rhythm, said festival founder Antoine Devens. It's easy to play, but difficult to play it well, said 85-year-old Marcel Henchos, one of the participants. He was joined by players from France, Germany, America, and Canada. The youngest competitor was 11 years old. 58-year-old Adolf Zobrist from Brenz, Switzerland, took the title for the fourth time. It's my hobby and it's my passion. I've been playing since I was 12, Zobrist said. It's the sound of the mountains. Yes, it is. Those Alpenhorns, I'm telling you, man. Whew. We wonder where we get our wonderful Ricola from and all the other great stuff that the people of Switzerland have for us. Right? Okay. Well, Cindy Smith of Prince William County, Virginia, definitely did not order hundreds of headlamps, glue guns, and children's binoculars, WUSA TV reported, but still they showed up at her home in more than 100 Amazon boxes. A lot of people thought I was weird, Smith said. I would drive around with headlamps and glue guns in the car. I gave them to everybody I met. WUSA looked into the situation for Smith and learned that sellers from China that need to get their merchandise out of Amazon's warehouses are just picking random addresses. According to an attorney who represents the companies that sell on Amazon, they're just having them sent there because it's just cheaper for them to do so. Amazon said it has closed its account with this particular seller. Hankering for a high-dollar auction rush, Sotheby's has you covered, or at least your feet. A pair of white sneakers from the 1990s, branded with the rainbow-colored Apple logo, will start at $50,000, Sky News reported. The shoes were distributed to employees at sales conferences and are among the most obscure in existence, Sotheby's said. Highly coveted on the resale market, the sneakers are in their original box and are in a condition. Ooh. Consistent with age and bonus, they come with an extra pair of red shoelaces sold just in case. Yep. And police in Tilden Township, Pennsylvania are going bananas trying to figure out who was throwing frozen bananas from a truck on July 24th. WFMZ TV reported. We had 5 vehicles traveling eastbound on Hex Highway, said Sergeant Peter Whitman. People traveling westbound threw frozen bananas and struck windshields and other car parts. One driver had her window down and was struck by a flying banana debris. What are the chances of a banana falling from the sky and into your car and hit you in the nuts, right? Boing. Yeah. It's extremely dangerous, Whitman said. This could injure or worse, you could cause vehicle crashes by doing this. Duh! Yeah. Well, there you have it, friends. News of the weird. And, of course, send your weird news items with subject line Weird News to weirdnewstips@amuniversal.com. And we, of course, thank the editors at Andrews McMeel Syndication for another week of News of the Weird. Yes. All right. WJDC studio time is 8:46. You're listening to DMS 3000 News Live, episode number 32. On this Monday, July 31st, 2023. When we come back, we'll look at the 22nd anniversary of the 22nd anniversary of the closing of Napster. I got to get that right there. You know what I mean? And, of course, later on, the 8th anniversary of Roddy Piper and The Psychology of Stupidity by Jean-Francis Marmion. I'll get it right. So we'll look at the commentary on the book and give you all that great stuff later on in the program. But right now, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, the 22nd look at Napster's closing right after this.
Every day I wake up, pour myself a cup of that rich Folgers aroma. The best part of waking up, it's the do-up in all I do. The mountain goat aroma, always coming through. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Now I'm right in harmony with that do-up ditty. Whoa, one more cup and it's a who-up ship-up for me. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
There's a new winner in mustards. In a nationwide taste test, new Hellmann's Dijonnaise Creamy Mustard Blend beat the leading mustard by 2-1.
You know, when I opened up that lunchbox and I saw that my sweetheart had made that ham sandwich with delicious new Hellmann's Dijonnaise, well, I knew I was in love.
Oh, nothing beats new Hellmann's Dijonnaise.
My brother says it's said to be square, and Elio's pizza's square, really. And you break it up, and you stick it in the toaster thing, and tons of cheese goes blub, blub, blub. And the best part about Elio's is my brother has to make it for me, which is very convenient.
Elio's Pizza from McCain. Easier, cheesier, crispier.
And square.
Instant waxed shine as you dust. You've been hearing things like that for years. But is waxing all that instant when you only need to dust? Watch.
With spray wax, you have all this rubbing.
But there's no wax in Endust. It just coats your cloth with tiny beads that trap dust.
You just wipe, and it brings back the shine. Use wax when you have to, sure. But every time you dust, use Endust. It gets rid of dust in half the time of waxing.
I like the way you shine. Baby, it's understood. You're a good time all the time. You make me feel so good. I like the way you sweet to take me through a thirsty day. You're a welcome sight to see. You're a Washington apple.
Bite into the best.
A little taste of heaven to me.
Washington apples.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, just said your breath's the worst of all.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Hey, a kiss for charity is really fine, but breath like yours isn't worth a dime.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Not even mouthwash can freshen your breath more effectively than when you're chewing Dentine.
That baby's cute as a bunny rabbit, but he smelled your breath and let you have it.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live on this episode 32. I'm Jason DeCanio. It is the 31st of July, 2023, and tomorrow is August 1st. And hopefully on the program tomorrow, I will have a special guest here. Plus, also David St. Dennis, our CEO, will be with us as well to join us in hopefully what we think will be one of the biggest interviews that we ever have had here on the DMS 3000 News Live, which is we've only finished about 2 months worth of programming. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the program as well. We've got a lot to cover within that time frame. But anyways, right now it is 8:51 in the morning, and we're going to be going to our first look at the closing of Napster on this 22nd anniversary. Well, as you know, Napster was a peer-to-peer file sharing application, and it originally launched on June 1st of 1999 with an emphasis on digital audio file distribution. Audio songs shared on the services were typically encoded in the MP3 format, and it was founded by Sean Fanning, Sean Parker, and Hugo Says Contreras. Now, as the software became popular, the company ran into legal difficulties over copyright infringement. It ceased operations in 2001 after losing a wave of lawsuits and filed for bankruptcy in June of 2002. Later, more decentralized projects followed Napster's peer-to-peer file sharing examples such as Nutella, Freenet, Fast Track, and SoulSeek. Some services and software like Audio Galaxy, LimeWire, Scour, Kazaa, Grokster, Madster, and eDonkey 2000 were also brought down on changed due to copyright issues. Napster's assets were eventually acquired by Roxio, and it reemerged as an online music store. Best Buy later purchased the service and merged it with its Rhapsody service on December 1st, 2011, rebranding back to Napster. Although they were already networks that facilitated the distribution of files across the internet, such as IRC, Hotline, and Usenet, Napster specialized in MP3 files of music and a user-friendly interface. At its peak, the Napster service had about 80 million registered users. Napster made it relatively easy for music enthusiasts to download copies of songs that were otherwise difficult to obtain, such as older songs, unreleased recordings, studio recordings, and songs from concert bootleg recordings. Napster paved the way for streaming media services and transformed music into a public good for a brief time. High-speed networks and college dormitories became overloaded, with as much as 61% of external network traffic consisting of MP3 file transfers, and many colleges blocked its use for this reason, even before concerns about liability for facilitating copyright violations on campus. The service and software program began as Windows only. However, in 2000, Black Hole Media wrote a Macintosh client called Maxter, and Maxter was later bought by Napster and designated the official Mac Napster client, Napster for the Mac, at which point the Maxter name was discontinued. Even before the acquisition of Maxter, the Macintosh community had a variety of independently developed Napster clients. The most notable was the open source client called MacStar, released by Scroll Software in early 2000, and Rapster, which was released by Overcaster family in Brazil. The release of MacStar's source code paved the way for third-party Napster clients across all computing platforms, giving users advertisement-free music distribution options. Heavy metal band Metallica discovered a demo of their song I Disappear had been circulating across the network before it was released, and this led it to being played on several radio stations across the United States, which alerted Metallica to the fact that their entire back catalog of studio material was also available. Then on March 13th of 2000, they filed a lawsuit against Napster. A month later, rapper and producer Dr. Dre, who shared a litigator and legal firm with Metallica, filed a similar lawsuit after Napster refused his written request to remove his works from its service. Separately, Metallica and Dr. Dre later delivered to Napster thousands of usernames of people who they believed were pirating their songs. In March of 2001, Napster settled both suits after being shut down by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in a separate lawsuit from several major record labels. In 2000, Madonna's song's music was leaked out into the web, and Napster, prior to its commercial release, caused widespread media coverage. Verified Napster use peaked with 26.4 million users worldwide in February of 2001. In 2000, the American musical recording company A&M Records, along with several other recording companies through the Recording Industry of America, that's the IRAA, sued Napster, which was A&M Records Inc. versus Napster Inc., on grounds of contributory and vicarious copyright infringement under the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or the DMCA. Napster was faced with the following allegations from the music industry. Number one, that its users were directly violating the plaintiff's copyrights. Number two, that Napster was responsible for contributory infringement of the plaintiff's copyrights. And number three, that Napster was responsible for the vicarious infringement of the plaintiff's copyrights. Almost the same thing. Napster lost the case in the district court, but then appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And although it was clear that Napster could have commercially significant non-infringing usage, the Ninth Circuit upheld the district court's decision. Immediately after, the district court commanded Napster to keep of the tracks of its network and to restrict access to infringing material when informed of that material's location. Napster wasn't able to comply and thus had to close down its service in July of 2001. In 2002, Napster announced that it had filed for bankruptcy, sold its assets to a third party. In 2018, Rolling Stone's article, Kirk Hammett of Metallica upheld the band's opinion that suing Napster was the right thing to do. Along with the accusations that Napster was hurting the sales of the record industry, some felt just the opposite, and that file trading on Napster's stimulated rather than hurt sales. Some evidence may have come in July of 2000 when tracks from English rock band Radiohead's album Kid A found their way to Napster 3 months before the album's release. But unlike Madonna, Dr. Dare, or Metallica, Radiohead had never hit the top 20 in the U.S. Furthermore, Kid A was an album without any singles released and received relatively little radio airplay. By the time of the album's release, the album was estimated to have been downloaded for free by millions of people worldwide, and in October of 2000, Kid A captured the #1 spot on the Billboard 200 sales chart in its debut week. According to Richard Menta of MP3 Newswire, the effect of Napster in this instance was isolated from other elements that could be credited for driving sales, and the album's unexpected success suggested that Napster was a good promotional tool for music. But since 2000, many musical artists, particularly those not signed to major labels and without access to traditional mass media outlets such as radio and television, have said that Napster and successive internet file sharing networks have helped get their music heard, spread word of mouth, and may have improved their sales in the long term. One such musician to publicly defend Napster as a promotional tool for independent artists was DJ Zealot, who became directly involved in the 2000 A&M Records lawsuit. Chuck D from Public Enemy also came out and publicly supported Napster. Well, Napster's facilitation of the transfer of copyright material raised the ear of the recording industry of America, which almost immediately on December 6, 1999, filed the lawsuit against the popular service. The service would only get bigger as the trial, meant to shut down Napster, also gave it a great deal of publicity. Soon millions of users, many of whom were college students, flocked to it. And after a failed appeal to the Ninth Circuit Court, an injunction was issued on March 5, 2001, ordering Napster to prevent the trading of copyrighted music on its network. Lawrence Lessing claimed, however, that this decision made little sense from the perspective of copyright protection. When Napster told the district court that it had developed a technology to block the transfer of 99.4% of identified infringing material, the district court told the counsel for Napster 99.4% was not good enough. Napster had to push the infringements down to zero. If 99.4% is not good enough, Lessing concluded, then this is a war on file sharing technologies, not a war on copyright infringement. Well, then on July 11th of 2001, Napster shut down its entire network to comply with the injunction. On September 4, 2001, the case was partially settled, and Napster agreed to pay music creators and copyright owners a $26 million settlement for past unauthorized uses of music, and as an advance against future licensing royalties of $10 million. To pay those fees, Napster attempted to convert its free service into a subscription system, and thus traffic to Napster was reduced. A prototype solution was tested in 2002, and the Napster 3.0 alpha using the .NAP secure file format for Play Media systems and audio fingerprinting technology licensed from Relatable. Napster 3.0 was, according to many former Napster employees, ready to deploy, but it had significant trouble obtaining licenses to distribute major label music. May 17, 2002, Napster announced that its assets would be acquired by German media firm Bertelsmann for $85 million to transform Napster into an online music subscription service. The two companies had been collaborating since the middle of 2000, while Bertelsmann became the first major label to drop its copyright lawsuit against Napster. Pursuant to the terms of the acquisition agreement, on June 3rd, Napster filed for Chapter 11 protection under the United States bankruptcy laws. On September 3rd, an American bankruptcy judge blocked the sale to Bertelsmann and forced Napster to liquidate its assets. What an interesting story, but one that basically kind of gives you an idea of what streaming was like in the early 2000s and what we had to basically go through to get music saved, and what price we were going to pay for to have that streaming services. Nowadays, everything is pretty much streamed on your phone, so you don't have to worry about devices like the iPod Shuffle, the iPod Nano. Although they were great devices in their time, friends, they did outlive their usefulness and, of course, were discontinued. When we come back, we'll look at the 8th anniversary of the death of Roddy Piper and, of course, Psychology of Stupidity by John Francis Marmon. We'll be right back after this. Okay, we'll be right back right after this.
Its name of origin is Theobrahma, food of the gods, but we know it as chocolate. This may be the first time you've seen natural chocolate, and this may be the first time you've really tasted it. Breyers all-natural ice cream. Nothing artificial. Just fresh milk, real cream, pure sugar. So that true chocolate taste really comes through. Breyers ice cream. It's like tasting chocolate for the first time.
My house always had Pert Plus in the locker room. It cleans, conditions. It's great. Then one day they switched. This one said it had conditioner in it, but my hair told a different story.
Some 2-in-1s don't lather as well or leave hair feeling as clean. Others don't fully condition. But Pert Plus's microbead conditioner leaves hair clean and completely conditioned.
So now when I go to my club, my Pert Plus goes with me.
Pert Plus. There's no 2-in-1 like this one.
What's this? Married 6 months and already your wife's using spaghetti sauce for jar?
It's okay, Pop. This is Prego.
Prego, listen to me. The ingredients of a successful marriage. Garlic.
It's in there.
Little bits of real herbs and onions for that homemade taste.
Pop, look, it's in there.
And you need...
Whoa,
It's in there.
100% natural Prego spaghetti sauce. Homemade taste. It's in there. Enjoy extra sugar-free gum.
Get extra flavor, extra fun, in extra sugar-free gum.
Extra, the only leading sugar-free gum with NutraSweet, gives you extra refreshing flavor that lasts an extra long time.
Extra flavor for that extra long play. Extra flavor for that extra long day. When you chew it extra, the extra fresh flavor lasts an extra long time.
Extra lasts extra long.
Birch, beech, maple, hickory. America's great hardwood trees. They help make smoked sausage made on the Hillshire Farm, America's great tasting smoked sausage. Hillshire Farm uses its own special blend of hardwood chips from these great trees to slowly, gently, delicately smoke its sausage right on the farm. They do it the old-fashioned way to give you all the flavor you want in a smoked sausage. That's how Hillshire Farm makes America's great tasting smoked sausage in Polska Kielbasa.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live on this July 31st, 2023. It's episode 32. We hope that you're having a fantastic Monday morning. Let's get back to our look at some more great events. The 8th anniversary of the death of Rowdy Piper. Yes, Roderick George Toombs, better known as Rowdy Piper, Canadian professional wrestler, amateur wrestler, and actor. In the spotlight, he was best known to international audiences for his work with the WWF, now WWE, World Championship Wrestling between 1984 and 2000. And although he was Canadian, Piper was billed as coming from Glasgow and was known for his signature kilt and bagpipe entrance music. This was because of his Scottish heritage. Piper earned the nicknames Rowdy and Hot Rod by displaying his trademark Scottish short temper, spontaneity, and quick wit. According to the Daily Telegraph, he is considered by many to be the greatest heel or villain wrestler ever. One of wrestling's most recognizable stars, Piper headlined multiple pay-per-view events, including the WWF and WCW's respective premier annual events, WrestleMania and Starrcade. He accumulated 34 championships and hosted the popular interview segment Piper's Pit, which facilitated numerous kayfabe feuds. In 2005, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame by Ric Flair, who dubbed him the most gifted entertainer in the history of professional wrestling. Outside of it, he acted in dozens of films and TV shows. Most notably, he took the lead role of John Nada in the 1988 cult classic They Live, and a recurring role as a deranged professional wrestler called The Maniac on the FX comedy series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan on April 17, 1954, the son of Eileen and Stanley Baird Toombs. He was raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and attended Windsor Park Collegiate. His father was an officer with the CN Rail Police, Canadian National Railway, while they lived in the Pas, Manitoba. After being expelled from junior high for having a switchblade in school and falling out with his father, Toombs left home and stayed in youth hostels. Several professional wrestlers hired him to run errands as he picked up odd jobs at nearby gyms. As a young man, he became proficient in playing the bagpipes, though he repeatedly stated that he was unsure exactly where he picked them up. His childhood and lifelong best friend was an ex-NHL player, Cam Connor. Piper was an amateur wrestler before he started to become a professional one, and he claimed to have won the Golden Gloves Boxing Championship. though their list of champions do not include any of his names. And he was awarded a black belt in judo from Gene LaBelle. He started wrestling under the care of promoter Al Tomko in Canada. His first match involving midget wrestlers in front of a lumberjack audience in Churchill, Manitoba. And he soon began earning money wrestling while still going to school. His first match in a famous organization was with Larry Hennig in the American Wrestling Association. Friends of his played the bagpipes during his entrance while he was handing out dandelions. Meanwhile, the ring announcer had to announce something, but all he knew was that Piper's name was Roddy. Subsequently, after seeing the pipe band, he announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Roddy the Piper." And this gave birth to the name Roddy Piper. From 73 to 75, Piper was a jobber in the AWA, NWA Central States territory surrounding Kansas City, and Eastern Sports Association in the Maritimes. He also worked in Texas for Paul Bosch's NWA Houston Wrestling Promotion, and in Dallas for Fritz von Erich's Big Time Wrestling. By late 75 and early 76, he was a top villain for Mike and Gene LaBelle's NWA Hollywood Wrestling. The 77 to 78, he also started to work for Roy Shire's NWA San Francisco Wrestling, in addition to remaining with the Los Angeles office, where Piper developed his rowdy character. And during this time, he made continuous insults directed at the area's Mexican community. He later promised to repent by playing the Mexican national anthem on his bagpipes, only to anger the fans further by playing La Cucaracha instead, which in turn caused a riot. Piper also managed a stable of wrestlers in California. In the Los Angeles area, he feuded with Chavo Guerrero Sr. and his father, Gory Guerrero. Piper and Chavo Guerrero faced each other in several matches for the Jules Strongbow Memorial Scientific Trophy. He was also defeated Chavo for the America's heavyweight title. And during the feud, Piper lost a hair match and had his head shaved. He appeared in several loser leave town matches and was forced to leave the territory. He also appeared in the territory as the Masked Canadian. In his first televised match as the Masked Canadian, Piper teamed with Chavo in a match against Black Gordman and Goliath for the America's Tag Team Championship. Piper and Guerrero lost the match and faced each other 2 days later, with Piper defeating Guerrero for the America's Heavyweight Championship. Piper wrestled as the Masked Canadian for several months until he was unmasked by Hector Guerrero. Late 78, early 79, he left the California promotions for even more fame in Don Owens' Portland-based Pacific Northwest Territory. He teamed with killer Tim Brooks and Rick Martel to win the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championship. He also won the NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship with victories over both Lord Jonathan Boyd and Playboy Buddy Rose. In the early 80s, he ventured to the Mid-Atlantic Territory, where he beat Jack Briscoe for the Mid-Atlantic title. He also defeated Ric Flair for the U.S. belt, which turned into a feud. And from 81 to 82, he served as a commentator on Georgia Championship Wrestling and feuded with the likes of Bob Armstrong, Dick Slater, and Tommy Rich. During the summer of 82, he became a fan favorite after knocking out Don Muraco and Ole Anderson to save broadcast partner Gordon Solie from Muraco, who had grown angry at Solie questioning his tactics. In Wrestling to Wrestling, Gerald W. Morton and George M. O'Brien described the transformation. The drama finally played itself out on television when one of Piper's hired assassins, Don Muraco, suddenly attacked the commentator Gordon Solie. Seeing Solie hurt, Piper unleashed his Scottish fury on Muraco. In the week that followed, like Achilles avenging Patroclus, Patroclus, he slaughtered villain after villain. In the arenas, fans chanted his name throughout his matches. In 1982, Piper was fired because of showing up late for a match. He went to Puerto Rico for a month, was booked by Jim Barnett shortly thereafter. He returned to the Georgia area in the summer of 83 to aid Tommy Rich during his rivalry with Buzz Sawyer. Eventually, Piper moved back to Jim Crockett Promotions, and as a fan favorite, Piper feuded with Sergeant Slaughter, Ric Flair, Greg Valentine. His feud with Valentine culminated in a dog collar match at the first Starrcade. Valentine broke Piper's left eardrum during the match with the collar's chain, causing Piper to permanently lose 50 to 75% of his hearing. This became known as the Year of the Ear. We'll take a break and be right back with more of the 8th anniversary of the death of Roddy Piper right after this.
Please pass the all fruit.
Pass the Polaner all fruit.
Pass the Polaner all fruit.
Would you please pass the jelly?
Polaner All Fruit is real fruit, sweetened only with fruit juice. You'll call it delicious, you'll call it remarkable, but please, don't dare call it jelly. Polaner All Fruit, the spreadable fruit.
Worst part about shaving for me? Razor drag. Edge? No razor drag. Extra moisturizers and lubricants. Razors glide effortlessly across my bare skin. So smooth. Just glide. No hang-ups. It makes shaving feel so good. Makes shaving feel so right. Edge. Get some.
Jello pudding pops, Jello pudding pops, frozen pudding on a stick. You know, Jello pudding pops is a winner with all the soapbox racers I know.
It is?
Mm-hmm. And even your mechanic's getting all revved up about it because it's so rich and creamy.
Yeah!
And it always gets the green light from Mom because it's made with real pudding.
Jello brand pudding pops. All the goodness of real Jello pudding. So you know it's wholesome.
A true winner.
And it gets a green light from Mom.
Mom sure know how to make life easier. Mine was always there for me. Like another mom I know. This mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. M-O-M. The laxative that helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Would Mom be harsh? No. And Mom's even easier to take with this dosage cup. See? Mom knows just what you need. So when you run into trouble, remember, nobody treats you better than Mom.
I bet you did something today you feel pretty good about. Bet you did. So go get your Mars bar. Come on, you deserve the best. Can't you just taste that rich milk chocolate, creamy caramel, and snuggle deep inside soft nougat? Big, fresh, crunchy nuts after nuts after nuts. This is what you deserve. You deserve every big, crunchy nut in a Mars bar. You did do something good today, didn't you?
Oh, man. Stop texting me, people.
Huh?
I'm over my limit. I get charged for each text now.
You should switch to Metro PCS. Text all you want for only $3 a month.
Oh, okay, right. And then your bill is hand-delivered by Bigfoot on a singing pony.
Sounds like make-believe, but it's not. Text all you want for $3 a month and no contract. Metro PCS.
Hello.
Unlimit yourself.
All right, welcome back to DMS 3000 News Live. It's episode 32 on this final day of July 31st, 2023. We're continuing our look at the 8th anniversary of the passing of Roddy Piper for all you wrestling fans out there. So let's continue on with his legacy. You know, before entering the WWF full-time in 84, he had to wrestle 5 matches with the WWF under Vince McMahon Sr., and in 79 at Madison Square Garden. His first match in the WWF, he defeated jobber Frankie Williams on January 22nd. Before one match, Freddie Blassie stuffed Piper's bagpipes with toilet paper so they would not play in front of the Garden crowd. In 1983, owner Vince McMahon contacted Piper, who insisted on serving out his contract with Jim Crockett before starting his WWF run in 1984. He debuted in the WWF as a manager, working with Dr. D, that's David Schultz, and Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. But eventually, Piper's run as a manager quietly ended, and he started wrestling full-time. focusing on one of his strengths as a wrestler, the microphone. He was given his own interview segment called Piper's Pit on Championship Wrestling and Wrestling at the Chase in '84, starting a run of that segment that ended in 1987. During one Piper's Pit, Piper insulted Jimmy Snuka's Polynesian heritage and attacked Snuka by smashing him over the head with a coconut. He also insulted Bruno Sammartino during a Piper's Pit segment, which led to a feud that ended in the steel cage match on February 8, 1986 at the Boston Garden, which Piper lost. Piper's next major storyline was with Hulk Hogan and also involved pop singer Cyndi Lauper. In 1985, MTV broadcast The War to Settle the Score, which featured a main event match between Piper and Hogan for the WWF Championship. Hogan was accompanied to the ring by Lauper, Captain Lou Albano, and Mr. T. This event set up the very first WrestleMania, which pitted Paul Orndorff and his former manager Piper against Hogan and Mr. T. Orndorff was pinned by Hogan when Piper's bodyguard, Cowboy Bob Orton, interfered and mistakenly struck Orndorff instead of Hogan. In Born to Controversy, Piper recalled how during the match he had to keep Mr. T busy to cover Mr. T's lack of wrestling ability from being seen by the fans. From this situation, Piper and Mr. T's real-life relationship became hostile, leading to the inevitable conclusion that they be put into a feud with one another on screen. Piper faced Mr. T in a boxing match at WrestleMania 2 in 1986, which Piper lost by disqualification after body slamming Mr. T. Following a leave of absence from the WWF, Piper returned as a face during a taping of Championship Wrestling on August 23, 1986 against AJ Petrucci. As part of the storyline, the returning Piper was distressed to find his Piper's Pit segment replaced by The Flower Shop, a segment hosted by Adrian Adonis, who had also hired Piper's former bodyguard, Orton. Piper spent weeks crashing Adonis' show and trading insults, leading to a showdown between the two segments that ended with Piper being assaulted and humiliated by Adonis, Orton, and Don Morocco, and the destruction of the original Piper's Pit set, resulting in Piper's face turn and the construction of a more permanent Piper's Pit set. In response, Piper stormed the set of Adonis' show and destroyed it with a baseball bat. This led to their hair versus hair match at WrestleMania 3, which was billed as Piper's retirement match from wrestling before he left to become an actor full-time. He won the match. In early 1987, Piper's Pit also served as the backdrop for Andre the Giant's heel turn and challenging Piper's old foe, Hulk Hogan, for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 3, and Hogan ultimately accepting the challenge. In 1989, Piper returned from a 2-year hiatus. Although WrestleMania 5 was billed as his return, he actually made his first appearance on March 19th in Denver, Colorado, at a house show where he hosted a live Piper's Pit and interviewed Brother Love. 2 weeks later at WrestleMania 5, he did make his official return with another live Piper's Pit where he hosed down a smoking Morton Downey Jr. with a fire extinguisher. I remember that. He made his return to the ring on May 12th, substituting for Jake Roberts and pinning Ted DiBiase on a house show in Los Angeles. Piper would gain several more victories against DiBiase that month and also against Randy Savage in June. He also co-hosted Primetime Wrestling from July 17th, 1989 to December 25th, 1989, with Gorilla Monsoon feuding with Bobby Heenan, ravishing Rick Rude, and Brother Love. He would return to the show in 91 as well. He returned to the ring when he interfered in Rude's Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship defense against the Ultimate Warrior at SummerSlam, costing Rude the title, and the feud was heavily promoted on TV, and Piper would face Rude in many matches throughout the house show tours, including steel cage and lumberjack matches. The feud was so prominent that a Survivor Series match was built around it, which saw both men captain a team and simultaneously be eliminated by countout during their brawl, though Rude's team would go on to win the match. And as you know, he returned to the bottom line. He was the president of the WWF in 96. Then he went to WCW from 96 to 2000. He returned to the WWE in 2003. He had a second return for a 10-year period. And finally, he passed away in 2015. And the cause of death, unfortunately, the cause of death, he had trouble collecting his thoughts, staying focused, and often rambling and not answering Eisen's questions. He died in his sleep at the age of 61 at his summer residence in Hollywood, California. The death certificate cites a cardiopulmonary arrest caused by hypertension, listing a pulmonary embolism as the contributing factor. Well, all I have to say, folks, about Mr. Piper is that he will never be forgotten. He will always be remembered as one of those great wrestlers and great entertainers of the time. And there will never, ever be another wrestling character like Rowdy Piper. We miss you, and we thank you for your wonderful years with the WWE. And we hope that your family is doing well in this time on this specific date. And with the 8 years into his passing, we thank him for all that he had contributed to the wrestling sport. And he will always be talked about and remembered for his funny and spontaneity and his quick-witted humor. Well, 9:27 is our time, and coming up next, we'll look at The Psychology of Stupidity by Jean-Francis Marmion, a commentary on the book, and then we'll briefly look at What Day Is Today, and also give you also the editorial to round out and finish up the program. We'll be right back right after this.
Every day I wake up, pour myself a cup of that rich Folgers aroma. The best part of waking up, it's the do-up in all I do. The mountain aroma always coming through. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Now I'm right in harmony with that do-up ditty. Whoa, one more cup and it's a who-up ship-up for me. Oh, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
There's a new winner in mustards. In a nationwide taste test, new Hellmann's Dijonnaise Creamy Mustard Blend beat the leading mustard by 2-1.
You know, when I opened up that lunchbox and I saw that my sweetheart had made that ham sandwich with delicious new Hellmann's Dijonnaise, well, I knew I was in love.
Oh, nothing beats new Hellmann's Dijonnaise.
My brother says it's said to be square, and Elio's pizza's square, really. And you break it up, and you stick it in the toaster thing, and tons of cheese goes blub, blub, blub. And the best part about Elio's is my brother has to make it for me, which is very convenient.
Elio's Pizza from McCain. Easier, cheesier, crispier.
And square.
Instant waxed shine as you dust. You've been hearing things like that for years. But is waxing all that instant when you only need to dust? Watch.
With spray wax, you have all this rubbing.
But there's no wax in Endust. It just coats your cloth with tiny beads that trap dust.
You just wipe, and it brings back the shine. Use wax when you have to, sure. But every time you dust, use Endust. It gets rid of dust in half the time of waxing.
I like the way you shine. Baby, it's understood. You're a good time all the time. You make me feel so good. I like the way you sweet the take me through a thirsty day. You're a welcome sight to see. You're a Washington apple.
Right into the best.
A little taste of heaven to me.
Washington apples.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, just said your breath's the worst of all.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Hey, a kiss for charity is really fine, but breath like yours isn't worth a dime.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
Not even mouthwash can freshen your breath more effectively than when you're chewing Dentine.
That baby's cute as a bunny rabbit, but he smelled your breath and let you have it.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine.
One of the interesting books about nonfiction of psychology is Stupidity. Yes, well, Jean-Francois Marmion, who wrote the book back in 2019, wrote the book on the interesting things that happen and deal with stupidity of life. Who knew that psychologically we would have stupidity as one of the things that we have to deal with? Well, here's a commentary about this from the Professional Mormon. They're the daily doses of satire and culture, professionalmormon.com. Talks about this back in June 11th of 2022. So how apt for this moronic website. Here we are taking a look at The Psychology of Stupidity, a 2018 work by French psychologist and editor Jean-Francois Marmion. The work notes there isn't a huge amount of research into the nature of human stupidity, which this book sets out to correct. But by reaching out to some of the world's leading intellects, Marmion pieced together this intriguing account on dumb people like us and everything that makes us tick. Okay, let's address the excrement in the room. In most instances, stupid people won't have the self-awareness to admit they're thick. Why? As it's bad for their self-esteem. You're not going to get people acknowledging their behavior is idiotic. They'll instead ramp up their defense mechanisms and presume they're more intelligent than everyone around them. And that's where the Dunning-Kruger effect kicks in. And although it is a contested theory from our experience, there's no denying a lot of people with lower intelligence inflate their ego to absurd highs. Instead of recognizing their incompetence at something, they think they're superb at it. Problems arise immediately around this topic, as just to discuss stupid people makes you sound like a pompous git with a superiority complex. In reality, we all do stupid things, but as Jean-Francois Marmion notes, the crucial thing is to be aware of it and to feel sorry about it, because to err is human, and admitting your faults is halfway to having them forgiven. There will always be those who take us for fools, but we recognize our own folly far too rarely. Self-awareness is certainly one of the biggest steps anyone can take to at least appear intelligent. Being considerate, an example of this. But the problem with stupidity is the total lack of self-reflection and consideration from those laboring under it. Having studied online comments sections since around 2009, we've seen the staggering extent of just how thick some people can be. In fact, we did a podcast about online comments and de-individuation. And as much as we love the internet, it's also enabled anyone to find an audience and have their ego stoked. And not to try and politicize this too much, but the vast amount of almost improbable stupidity we've come across online has been from right-wingers. Comments we've seen on tabloid comments section include claiming anyone who criticizes Winston Churchill should be executed for sedation, believing British society would collapse into a communist state should the monarchy system be abolished, and using China as an example to support the argument, claiming there was absolutely nothing right-wing about the Nazi Party, claiming the Nazi Party was liberal as it had anti-smoking and pro-animal stances. The woman who stated that on the Daily Mail conveniently cherry-picked those whilst ignoring hundreds of policies that make Nazis far right. Constantly failing to understand what socialism is, and blaming all of England's many disastrous problems on foreigners and the woke, but not the 12 years of Conservative Party rule and its well-documented corruption, sleaze, and incompetencies. For decent, intelligent people who just want an orderly life, It's draining to have all of this going on. Exhausting, even. Stupid people often vote idiotically to the detriment of entire nations and the planet, as they're so readily susceptible to basic demagogues and propaganda. And they drain the life out of our souls in working environments, spout bigoted invective, cause hate crimes and conflict, and begin a lot of sentences with, in the good old days. It's the back in my day mentality that dreary thinkers are prone to lapsing into. Marmion also notes, studies in the realm of belief always distinguish between the naive cruelty of the greenhorns and the entrenched stupidity of old fools. It's been proven that negative memories fade with time, whereas positive memories endure. And this is why the older a person gets, the greater his tendency to regard the past in a positive light, which is why old fools like to complain wistfully, everything was better in the good old days. All of which leads us to a paradox of tolerance. For liberal, lefty, woke snowflakes such as ourselves, there's a limit to the level of tolerance liberal values will allow. For example, we're not going to tolerate some homophobic bigot. If society is infinitely tolerant and liberal, that magnanimous approach will inevitably be exploited and destroyed by bigots. And you can actually see this in action across British society as the gutter press here exploit to the point of lunacy any moral loophole to deny all accountability for society's issues. It's a toxic global issue and one born out of malice alongside stupidity and ignorance. Malice leading to stupidity, ignorance, subservience, voting for the very thing making most people's lives worse. Whilst the psychology of stupidity is humorous in its tone, it does attempt to confront this perplexing problem. Vast as it is, what's the answer? Well, we don't think there is one, but we can try to get our heads around it. It's easy to get high and mighty about all of this. Popular culture is decked out with jabs at stupid people, from Dumb and Dumber in 1994 to Baldrick and Blackadder. A lot of humor could come out about by pretending to be thick too, such as the glorious Diane Morgan as Philomena Kunk. Hell, then there's our site professional moron. We started this thing in part as a tonic to the self-professed expertise act everyone puts out in the business world. And we're still pretty fed up with people claiming their superiority due to wealth and or perceived intellectual superiority. We just like to point out it's fine to take this piss out of yourself, No need to take yourself so seriously. But yes, you might be able to tell we enjoyed The Psychology of Stupidity a great deal. Obviously, it's the type of book anyone can sit there and read feeling smug about themselves. If you genuinely are stupid, you'll sit there thinking, those stupid people. By reading this, I have proven I am not stupid. If you're smart, what you'll take from Marmion's work with all of its accomplished contributors is how stupid we all are in one way or another. The individuals he consults include Pascal Engel, Eva Drozda Senkwaska, Yevs Alexandre Thalman, Bridget Axelrod, and Pierre de Senarklins. Wow. And some mighty smart people, basically, who've been well educated, but have something to do with what they've learned rather than lapsing into pomposity. Marmion thrusts his blunt sense of humor throughout the work, which we think is kind of needed. It's like Tiffany Watt Smith's Schadenfreude, the joy of another's misfortune. You kind of had to approach the subject of stupidity with a sense of humor. It feels apt. Ultimately, we must end by saying you should read this book if the human condition bothers you. And if you view our experience as a species, as a collective exercise, then it's of the utmost intrigue to think, why are so many people so stupid? We can baffle in the moment, or if you're a Daily Mail reader, revel in it whilst you laugh at those stupid liberals. But if there's one thing clear about humanity, It's that if we want to still be around in the 200 years, reading tabloid newspapers won't achieve it. Tune in tomorrow for our hot topic, Jane's Jugs. She's 29, smoking hot, and doesn't know what the Oxford comma is. Well, there you have it, folks. The Psychology of Stupidity, a commentary on the book by the people at ProfessionalMormon.com. Well, this is an editorial, and this brings us to the final 15 minutes of our show, give or take. I want to let you know that in the month of August, we will be launching 5 weeks of meetings here at the David 3000 Network. I myself will be conducting them. David is going to be showing off the newly formatted pending fall schedule, which we hope that will intrigue everybody as to what programs are going to be coming up on the fall schedule from September to June. And that's running from September 2023 to June of 2024. It's a 7-month run of scheduled programs that can change over the course of that 7 months. We're saying nothing is set in stone right now, but we would like to get programs that are going to fill in the time slots so that we have a good variety of programs. As most of you probably know, our game show block has been very successful on the David 3000 Network. The David 3000 Network was basically founded on the game show format, which means a lot of game shows were basically, this was a game show channel before it became a prime network. Over the course of the 7 months, myself and David St. Dennis have taken this channel to new heights. We not only have upped the subscribers to over 1,000 in the course of the 7 months, but we also have extended the programming to different areas of television that you might see here on YouTube, and only you will see on the David 3000 Network. A lot of the times, with the help of others, we have gotten back programming from other sources, from other channels, to promote their channels to come to the David 3000 Network and be part of this ever-growing family that's starting a trend right here on YouTube and StreamYard, for that matter. What we'd like to tell you is that next month, with the meetings going on, we're going to cover all of the aspects, tell you what shows are going to be ready to go in and what spaces are available for your show. That's right. There are some slots still available, folks, as the schedule winds down to September 4th. Once September 4th happens, no programs can be pretty much put in, because once the schedule is finalized, we will be pretty much running that schedule on Labor Day, September 4th, 2023. With that said, all recording of the summer recordings will cease operations on August 21st of this next month, which means that all summer programs that were recorded for it and to be put on for the fall will stop on the 21st of August. And the final week of August, we will have meetings that will basically get ready to launch what we hope is going to be a successful fall season with everybody on the bandwagon. What we'd like from you is, if you would like to attend one of these meetings, they'll be every Tuesday night in the month of August. That's August 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th on Discord at 8 o'clock. Okay? And you can drop a line to me or David St. Dennis to get yourself on the list. We would hope that we see a lot of people at these meetings, because maybe one day your show might wind up on that schedule. You will get a copy of the schedule during that meeting, at the end of the meeting, and you will also be asked about your input, what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see on the future of the fall schedule. With all of that in mind, television programs have come a long way, folks. Over the course of 60 to 70 years right now, we have seen a lot of changes. We have seen some new stuff coming out. But one thing for certain is that a television station is pretty much run by its viewers. And by that, we mean you watching the programs every day give us a sense of what we are looking for to show on our channels here. We're also looking for a research team, a group of 4 people who are serious about numbers, statistics, views, what the public would like to see on our show, and really out there to promote the channel. Next month also, too, myself and David St. Dennis will be out there on various shows promoting the David 3000 Network, as well as promoting our own channels as well. Each one of us also has an individual channel, or one or two or three or four, or however many channels we run at any given time. I know for a fact that I run 3 channels. And tomorrow, I'll tell you about those 3 channels and promote myself on the show. If everything goes right, we will have a special guest tomorrow, possibly. But if not, we'll still have a great lineup of topics for you that will take you into Brandon Martin's 3-day run right here on the DMS 3000 News Live. So, with all of that, I would like to do one final commentary that I thought was pretty interesting. And this is about, and I had saved it here, so I'm going to scroll down and pick it up right now. There was a commentary that I thought was very interesting. Here was an editorial about the mental health pandemic. And this was from Philstar Global. I'm going to put the ad block plus on here because there's a lot of ads. Very slow loading, as you can tell. Okay. So this editorial on the mental health pandemic was from Philstar.com. And it was from the Philippine Star on May 11th at 2023 at 12 midnight. There was another silent killer during the pandemic lockdowns, serious depression that led to suicide. Tragically, many of those who took their own lives were youths. Data gathered by the Department of Health and the National Center for Mental Health showed that suicides have risen steadily across the country, with the 2,810 recorded in 2019, rising to 4,420 in the first year of the pandemic in 2020. Suicide-related calls received by the NCMH also rose from 712 in 2019 to 2,841 the following year and 5,167 in 2021. Department of Health and NCMH data showed mental health-related calls also rising steadily, surging from 2,413 in 2019 to 8,176 in 2020, and then further to 9,730 in 2021. More troubling was that in the academic year 2021 to 2022, when remote learning remained the favored mode in formal education, health officials recorded 2,147 suicide attempts in public schools, with 404 students taking their own lives. The data showed that approximately 7.5% of Filipino teenagers tried to end their life in 2021, a jump from the 3% in 2013. 60% did not seek help for their problems, and of those who did, only 4% sought professional help. This could be partly because of the lack of mental health professionals in this country. There are only about 60 child psychiatrists in the Philippines, with the most of them practicing in Metro Manila and other urban centers. Many schools, especially the state-run, lack even trained guidance counselors. And while mental health awareness has increased in the past years, there are still people who attach a stigma to admitting mental health issues and seeking professional help. Youths who suffer from depression as a result of bullying by their peers can fear further harassment if it becomes known that they are seeking help. Teens also tend to avoid discussing such issues with their parents. The country passed a Mental Health Care Act in 2017, Republic Act 11036. Congress is conducting an inquiry into the implementation of RA 11036. Senators said the DOH has $1.86 billion this year for psychiatric treatments, and another $12 million for maintaining a mental health hotline and awareness campaign. Based on the reported sorry state of the NCMH, however, mental health care lacks resources like the other aspects of public health services. And apart from limited resources, including the lack of mental health professionals, addressing the problem calls for the involvement of multiple sectors, from the family to the schools to the community, law enforcement, spiritual counselors, and mass media. Experts have said COVID also created a mental health pandemic. The easing of the global public health emergency should also pave the way for an easing of this crisis in mental health. Well, that concludes our broadcast for today. Thank you very much for joining me here. I hope you have a fantastic day. And remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple. Stupid. Yes. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow for another edition of DMS 3000 News Live. Bye for now.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Devin Thousand Network for great more content like this one.